out of breath is because I have to go up 3 flights of stairs. I had to do it quite quickly because I didn't want to leave you guys for too long. Whew. But yes.
Do you think I felt regret as I
This will be for the GDQ submission stream.
Or at least humility at the speed with which a world can be transformed from
I did not go to the bathroom, no.
hell?
Hey, Bob Hope.
So you are mistaken. For in that moment I thought of one thing only. The honor and glory I would bring my father by fighting like a warrior in my first battle.
Cool. So yeah, I'm just going to try and do a couple of PB attempts. And then what I'll do is, if I'm not entirely happy with the commentary that I've given during the run, instead what I'll just do is I will take the VOD and I will re-commentate over it by Monday. Now, I'll be attempting all of the skips.
Many men that day sought to win honor and glory on the battlefield.
Oh, actually, I won't be attempting Palm Tree skip.
Said to Rustam, "You are the noblest of my warriors." From the moment my sword tasted blood, I knew this would not be my way.
Which is much later in the
I
run.
would win my father's praise, not by killing, but by being the first to find the Maharaja's treasure vault and the wonders within.
24 AM. I've never seen that. But yeah, the first section of the game is pretty as standard. There's nothing too fancy until we get to our first skip, which is about 3.5 minutes in. It's called... well, it doesn't really have a name. I guess it's called Early Dagger Skip, because it's a skip that lets you get dagger early. It's actually a really big skip in terms of the time that it saves. It doesn't look like it saves a lot of time, but I think it saves about 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes. The problem is you never really see the area that you skip, so it doesn't look like it saves 2 minutes, but it does. You'll have to trust me. Should you ask questions you already know? No, don't worry.
Here, the next time we're interrupted.
I mean, it does skip a bit of gameplay. It skips quite a lot of gameplay. There's an entire section that we never visit. Hey, Night Valiant. What's that?
Just out of reach, the dagger of time. There was a treasure I could carry with pride as a
Trophy of our victory. If I could only get there. So there's the Dagger of Time that you just saw during that cutscene. What's quite cool is we don't actually need to physically touch the dagger to get it. And you'll see why shortly, after the game is done telling us to avoid spiky poles, which you always should in every situation in life. So that right there is... oh, I failed it. So this right here is Early Dagger Skip. The first attempt was very close, but it was just ever so slightly off from working. Essentially, you want to use a very specific position against the wall, and then when you run and jump off the wall, that needs to be at a specific height also. So you see the Dagger of Time that we saw earlier in that cutscene. We don't need to physically pick it up. We just need to go to the doorway, because the trigger for the cutscene that we're about to enter, which takes us to the next area, the trigger for that cutscene is loaded in that doorway. So we don't actually need to pick up the dagger itself. That is true, Kane. That is true. Hey, Kian. Hey, Damien. What's up, guys? This is the first section of the game that is forced combat. All the combat sections that could have appeared earlier in the game, we were actually able to skip just by running past them. You can't do that here, unfortunately. So these are the main enemy of the game. They are sand zombies. You kill these zombies by retrieving their sand. There's no other way to kill them, so you can't kill them with normal sword attacks like that. you have to retrieve their sand. So every enemy has their own vulnerabilities, or different vulnerabilities, should I say, before you can take their sand. All of these enemies in the first fight have the same vulnerability, so it's a little bit of a boring fight, because all you need to do for these enemies is jump over their head, like so. You do the jump, you do one single sword attack, and then you retrieve with the dagger. And that's the same for all of these enemies. But you'll see in maybe about 15 minutes or so, we're going to have another section where we're forced into combat. And during that section, we will not be able to use this same vaulting attack. I'm not coming out later, no. I have to do this. This is my last day to do it. Because I'm in Leeds all day tomorrow now. Thanks, Kian. And then the submissions end on Monday. So yeah, this is actually the category of the game that you require to fight more, if that makes sense. So the other two categories of this game, both of which I have run. So I ran any percent at SGDQ 15, and I ran Zipless any percent at SGDQ 17. In those categories, you can skip basically all of the fighting sections through the use of glitches. But, as the name may imply for this category, no major glitches, you can't do that. So this is the first section, the first of the guest rooms that we go through. And the skip that I just did there was achieved by vaulting off a piece of the geometry and landing on a fence. Landing on that fence allows us to do a 180 turn and wall run across a wall that the game doesn't expect us to be able to wall run, but you can wall run on it.
Had my senses given way under the burden
That's really good.
too great to bear, and conjured up a phantom.
I just realised I didn't do the first split. That's fine.
I had found her again.
But yeah, that first skip it's not difficult, but you've got to make sure that your camera is in a very specific direction. If you don't, then that skip doesn't work at all. You don't land on the fence. There's also a distance element as well. The fact that we got that first try is quite nice. So, the fastest way to... I've been having lots of trouble with this skip recently, and I'm not sure why. There we go. It would have been faster, ultimately, just to break the pots there, but I was committed. As soon as I failed it once, I had to get it. But you can torpedo. If you do that first try, it's obviously quicker than just breaking them normally. I didn't do it first try, but you have to believe me. So there's a little bit of a sloppy movement at the end there, but it's nothing too major. Nothing too major. This is Farah. There you go. she didn't want me to tell you, apparently. She'd rather tell you herself. So she is an AI companion that follows along with us throughout most of the game. She is the bane of many a No Major Glitches speedrunner, because this is the category where you rely on Farah the most. And relying on Farah in this game is a recipe for disaster. We do not want to do this, but we have to. Take one for the team, I guess. Thankfully, we get to ditch her for a little while. And she'll be coming back in later, but not for a little bit. So actually coming up now, we've got another skip which saves a very long amount of time. I think this saves about a minute or 2 minutes. But if you blink, you're going to miss it, because it's a very innocuous looking skip. We're going to turn our camera to the side here and torpedo down to this ledge. Now that only works with a torpedo, because what a torpedo does is it basically lowers the height that the prince jumps off of, and therefore allows you to survive a fall that might otherwise kill you from fall damage. So we were able to use the torpedo to get all the way down there and then survive that fall. And then we're at a much lower section of the level than we should be. However, because I skipped such a large section of the level, you'll see that I killed myself on that pole. What that is it's to reload the level. Because we skipped obviously quite a large chunk of the level. And the way that this game loads is sort of sequentially. So it expects you to walk over certain triggers. But in the speedrun, we do skip a lot of those, just like that one there. So that one that I just skipped over is actually just a cutscene trigger. It's not a loading trigger. But that cutscene's about 15 seconds.
God! I was afraid you were one of them. Can you help me?
I look a little bit pale. I wonder why.
It'll take both of us to do it.
But yeah.
I'll reset the axles for
So yeah,
you.
like I said, the way that the game loads is it loads in chunks. And it expects you to load those chunks by walking over certain sections. We skip a lot of those. And then what we have to do is we have to find a checkpoint after we've skipped a chunk. And then what that does is, pardon me, when we load that checkpoint and then kill ourselves, when we reloaded that checkpoint, the area has reloaded as it should. And we'll be using that loads throughout the run. I'll point it out whenever it happens. Schaefer, thank you for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Very, very kind of you.
Make sure you pick them up in the right order. That's it.
You've got the first axle. Now pick up the other 3. Unfortunately, we have to do this puzzle. This is now the only category. I can't hear myself over this guy. Because he shouts. He shouts a lot.
The other one raises and lowers it.
This is the only category now where we have to do this puzzle. But thankfully, a new skip was found just a couple of days ago, actually. We can skip 4 seconds. 4 seconds worth of this puzzle. And it's done in a very weird and interesting way. I'd like to see if there's any other section where the same principles apply. Although I don't think I think people have probably looked into that already, and I don't think we've found anything. But during this section, at any point during this puzzle, if you press the rewind button, which I might as well do now. If you do that at any point,
just one more,
then the cutscene that plays when you finish this puzzle is cut short by about 4 seconds. Well, actually, I think it's cut short by about 5 seconds, but you've got to factor in the time that you took to then rewind, so, you know. It does end up saving time though, which is nice. Line them up with their gears. Yeah, you'll be able to sort of tell that I have skipped the cutscene because usually during the cutscene, you see the bridge extend. But instead, what will happen this time round is I'll be able to have control of the character before the bridge extends. Like so. So normally, the bridge that comes out there, that normally happens only in the cutscene.
Throw your lever and I'll... We did it! Serve those accursed demons right! Oh my God!
Just getting comfy.
The day they ever dared attack the palace of Azad!
So we're going to try and be really fast to skip a cycle right now. We need to get past those spiky poles in a certain way. Also rip this guy. So right now we need to be really fast, no wasted movement. Sometimes this enemy can block you and that is bad news bears. We got through. So you see that I managed to sort of like squeak through that pole before it got to me. If you're not really fast with your movement there, you have to wait for the pole to make a cycle. Saves about 2 or 3 seconds, but every little helps. So now that we've activated the Azad's palace's defense systems, there's a lot more danger in the prince's day-to-day platforming. So you'll see all these spiky saws and spiky poles that are all around. It's nice. So that trick that I just did there, and then kind of failed because I fell down. That's a pretty big skip, because normally you have to press a button to summon a pillar out of the ground, and then you have to wait for the cutscene for that to happen, and then you have to jump on the pillar. You can actually skip all that by running on that palm tree. There is a faster version of that even, but it's really random. We don't do it in runs. There's another palm tree you can use to save. It probably saves around 15 seconds. It's a really big skip, but it's just, there's too many permutations to reliably get the trick, so we don't do it. It's interesting. I lost 8 seconds on that split, but I'm not sure where I lost it. Not entirely sure, because I was using the new trick. I'm going to do a little bit of fancy movement here called over the saw blade. That skips 2 cycles if you can get it on the way back as well. Which we can. No, we can't. Rubbish. So, it usually saves time. Not this time, unfortunately. I suck. But we still save loads of time because my PB was really bad in this section. The failed torpedo before the boxes? No, that was on the previous split. The palace defense system is from meeting Farah to completing the palace defense system. Gonna do some fancy movement to skip some platforming. And here we have the second combat section that I was talking about earlier. Unfortunately, the prince stabs himself in the head here. Rest in peace. And there's our AI companion. So this fight, like I said, this fight is a lot harder because there's a different type of enemy here. You've got the red guys from earlier, but you've also got these blue guys. The blue guys are not susceptible to vaulting over their head. There's 2 ways to deal with them. It's either through a power attack or a torpedo attack. So we can do the torpedo attack like so. The problem with the torpedo attack, as the prince so graciously demonstrated for me just there, is this game has an auto-aim system, and you don't have a lot of control over where you're aiming and which enemy the prince targets. It can be very frustrating in this fight. So ideally, we want to do what's called a power attack, which is this thing right here.
I soon discovered that when I had
Again, the power attack has its downsides because, again, I was auto-targeted over the over my dad there. The power attack has its downsides because it leaves you vulnerable while you're doing the power attack. Thankfully, Farah actually downed this guy, which saves some time for us. And we'll be doing a trick at the end of this fight to kill the dad a lot faster than we should be able to. So usually you have to hit the dad, I think it's 8 or 9 times before you can retrieve his sand. We can use it actually is an intended mechanic because it happens throughout the game. I'm getting a little bit unlucky here. Come on. So again, the enemies have a random chance to block like that. Still, it's not too bad. We're losing some time here. So yeah, we're going to go into slow-mo. Like that. And when you're in slow-mo, you can retrieve your dad's sand instantly. Yeah, we lost a lot of time there because we had a pretty poor fight. But
I'm sorry.
Hey, Ghost.
I know
So we're going to use a save and quit feature here, which is actually, I think, quite interesting. Because save and quit isn't generally used for PC games. It's quite common for consoles, but not for PC games.
What are you doing? Stop!
But what happens in usual and casual gameplay is you take this save and then a cutscene plays.
Done.
We don't want to watch that cutscene. because the very good thing about this game, or about that section specifically, is that the save point that we took, it actually reloads after that cutscene's been played. So we get to skip that cutscene in its entirety.
And you were worried about me?
We hit Farah there for a reason. I'm not just being spiteful. And that reason should become apparent as we go down here. Good luck, Limelicious. So we're on a timer right now. Basically, the game only lets you get so far from your AI companion. And we are currently quite far away from her. However, what we intend to do is trigger a checkpoint by opening this door. So unfortunately, Farah dies. Rest in peace. But when we reload, everything's okay. She's back. She's alive. You're gonna have to trust me. We'll get to see her in a little bit. And this time she's not dying anymore. So the reason that we hit her at the beginning is because it makes her health run out faster. We can always afford to hit her once. If you hit her twice, you can't make the cycle, unfortunately. But hitting her once, she basically dies as soon as you trigger the checkpoint, which is really nice. So we're wall running here because wall running is the most effective method of transport. Besides rolling upstairs. I think rolling upstairs is ever so slightly faster. But yeah, there's Farah. We're going to do a small glitch here to... I didn't get it. So you can adjust your camera as you enter this cutscene, and that actually allows you to move in the cutscene. It doesn't save that much time because you can obviously only move up to this barred iron door. But, you know, it would have saved the time it takes me to go from here to here. No, it's like half a second, but, you know,
What is this?
every half a second
Need
counts.
to find a way down to the bottom.
This section is done pretty much as intended until we get about halfway down. Halfway down the room. Once we get halfway down the room,
Stay there.
all hell breaks loose. Not really, but we do a lot of things in quick succession, so I'll try and explain them as I go through. I could have probably dropped down instantly there and did an instant roll to
I'll just wait here then. Shall I?
to dodge those spikes, but I was just playing it a little bit safe. So something actually happens, seeing as I've got some time to explain it. Something will happen where, because we've skipped a large section of the game, Farah's AI will not know what to do. It will try to perform a specific action. You know, she'll try to run from point A to point B. The problem for Farah's AI is that the distance between point A and point B, the geometry has not been loaded in the way that it should be casually. So instead she ends up suiciding, which is rather unfortunate, but it's actually fast for us. So I'm going to do a very specific jump here. A diagonal jump over that section. That's to skip an enemy trigger. So if we were to... Oh, whoopsie daisy, I was just a little bit in the way of those traps. If I was to walk over the base of the pillar, then enemies would be spawning at the bottom. So here's the bit where, unfortunately, Farah's AI gets a little bit confused. But we respawn and everything's a-okay, so... Like I said earlier, there's a lot of sections during this run where we'll be skipping large sections of the level and then finding some way to game over, because there is quite a few different ways that you can game over. Like Farah can die, or you can die, or you can hit a failure state. You know, to... Oops, daisy. So there's a very specific jump that I have to do here, because there's... Oh. Whoopsie daisy. Not getting There we go. So the very specific jump that I have to do there, you may be thinking, well, why don't you just jump straight forward? It's because the game has not written any collision for the prince to climb up in that section. Because usually, there is a big old ladder in the way, basically. Or a big old platform. So, what I actually just did there is I let that door close on my head. And what that does is it pushes the prince into the cutscene. And that's really good for us because it means that the prince can move during the cutscene. So it saves quite a bit of time, actually. This is a section where we have to really hope that we get lucky. Because we've got these 4 enemies here. However, there's a chance that one of these enemies can go over to Farah. And if they do, again, that is bad news bears for us. Luckily, it looks like they're not going to. Interesting, but fine. So I actually misplayed there. I accidentally stabbed the enemy, which I shouldn't have done, because it means that I got that small cutscene after, where the prince puts his sword away. We don't want that cutscene, and you can avoid it. We're doing a trick here to get up on this ledge. We get up here early. And we're going to kill these birds early as well. That actually saves a really large amount of time. So we get to that section before that we should... before the game expects us to.
I don't think
And those birds' AI basically hasn't been put in motion yet. And if we didn't do that, obviously you saw that I killed 3 birds. Each of those birds would take this long to come down. So it really does save quite a lot of time. Being able to kill them early is really nice. We're going to position ourselves in a certain way here. Because there's a cutscene right in front of this door. But if you line the prince's head up here, you can skip this cutscene. That cutscene actually, that cutscene is about 15 seconds long. So that's actually quite a big skip. Again, it's not a skip that you can see, but you're going to have to trust me. You guys trust me, right? Probably. This is a very specific jump here. I got a very bad result, but ultimately it's okay because, you know, I didn't fall down. You can make that jump without, you know, the sort of climbing animation. And that's obviously the fastest way, but... we'll probably save quite a bit of time on this split compared to my PB. Because my PB was very poor here. I'm glad to hear it, Schaefer. I feel like if we failed a few times to wall run onto that ledge, I feel like if we'd have gotten that first try, we may have actually gotten a best split here. We should still be saving about 20 seconds. 19 seconds.
Believe the rest of my tale until now. Perhaps you will also believe me when I tell you that.
So, fastest way to kill these scarabs is to power attack them like so.
I began to feel strangely drawn to the girl myself. My reason told me to distrust her.
So there is one scarab that I'm leaving to Farah. Oh no, I'm not apparently.
And I confess, I was grateful for the company.
So that was a big case of Prince of Persia: Sands of Time auto aim. For some reason, it just really wanted me to attack that scarab. It was very unfortunate because we could have actually been quite fast through that section. But I got a little bit unlucky. It's probably my most hated part of this game is the auto aim feature. It's either the auto-aim or sometimes the camera can be very bad.
I don't know. Can't you crawl?
But at least the movement is, you know, really crisp. Especially for a game that came out in 2003, I feel. A third-person platformer in 2003. Did a small little skip there. Rolling over that sand trap. Spike trap. Allows me to skip a cycle for those saw blades. This is nice.
You did it.
It's actually, it's not like a hard trick, but it's a very insignificant, it's not an insignificant amount of time if you mess it up, because if you mess it up, you usually have to, you know, rewind to before you messed it up, and then you need to go the slow route, so getting that first try is good. This bird has a random chance to hit us, but it did not hit us, which is good. The RNG gods are on my side. I pressed the wrong button there. That's my bad. I pressed the wrong direction. So I jumped back in the direction that I came. Pro tip, don't do that if you want to go fast. And we're going to do another little small time saver here. After we've finished pushing this lever. We're going to push our camera into what's called landscape mode. That's going to allow us to line up the prints a lot easier than we would be able to otherwise. Like so. And we're going to jump here. Nice. So what that skips is it skips wall running along the wall. I want to say that's probably like another 2 or 3 second time save. It's not risky, but you know, that's again a trick that you definitely want to get first try, because if you fail it, then you are plummeting very fast to your death, which no one wants. Unfortunately, these scarabs are getting in my way. So when we turn this corridor, we really want Farah to follow us. Sometimes she can take a long time to follow, other times she may not. Okay, so she followed us fairly quickly there. That's nice. And here we have the baths. So this is probably the hardest, or one of the hardest points in the run. We're going to be trying to do a skip, which is quite difficult. And then there's lots of consequences that come from doing that skip, basically. So let's have a look. The skip that I'm going to try and do here is this one. I didn't get it first try, unfortunately. It means I'm going to have to back off, reset a little bit. I'm going to go slow-mo. And this enemy's going to troll me. It's not part of the trick. But we got it. We got a second try. That's not too bad. Obviously, ideally, you want to get it first try. Hey, Dawn. So now that we've done that trick, and that is quite a hard trick to do, the reason why that's a hard trick to do is because you really shouldn't be able to wall run up that section. The game even tries to stop you by putting a pool of water next to that wall. The prince cannot complete a wall run when he is classed as waterlogged. So basically, if the prince has touched water in the last 5 seconds or so, he can't complete a wall run. There is a very tiny bit of geometry that you can successfully complete a wall run in that section, and you can skip this humongous section of the game. It skips about 5 minutes. So now we've got this part. So we need Farah to basically load in correctly for the next section of the game. And the way that we do that is like so. That should be correct. So those very specific movements that I did there are all designed to basically force the game into Farah loading during this section. And you can tell that it's worked because we didn't game over just there. Basically, if you do those steps in the wrong order or with the wrong amount of time, the game will game over as soon as you get to this balcony. It didn't, which means that we should be saving a little bit of time. Would be saving a little bit more if we got the trick first try, but, you know, altogether, not too bad. But what's quite interesting is that during this section, because we've basically forced Farah to load into this area incorrectly, she's in what's called a twisted neck state. I'm going to do a bit of platforming, precise platforming there. Okay, I'm going to apparently fail to do a bit of precise platforming. I think it should be okay. Dang it. If I fail it again, I'm just going to go the normal way. Okay, we got it third try. Third try is the charm. So yeah, right now, Farah's AI has no idea what to do. She's basically, her neck is on backwards, and I mean that in the literal sense of the word. Her neck is quite literally on backwards, and she's not going to be able to perform any movement commands. Luckily for us, the game forces her into loading at a later section during this bit of platforming. It's really good for us. Because, you know, otherwise she'd be stuck behind there, and if you get too far away from her, she will die. This is a semi-new strat. It's actually always been known about, it's just that people didn't do it. And the reason why I definitely want to show this version off at GDQ is because you've got a much clearer example of what twisted neck state actually is. I don't know if that's going to work. It did work. Nice. So yeah, Farah's been forced into loading around the corner here. And there she is with a twisted neck. But we can damage her enough to basically force her AI to move into you know, being active. It's really, really useful because before, what we had to do was a death abuse, that's not as fast as doing that. So yeah, you guys can have some nightmares about Twisted Neck Farah. Hey, Thorogrim. You had a dream about this game? I hope it wasn't about Twisted Neck Farah. Gotta wait for Farah to let us get into the next section here.
Here I am. Can you make it?
Don't step off that switch.
Yeah, Twisted Neck is definitely an interesting part of this run. Not sure why it works like that, but that's the way that it works. So we've got a semi-forced combat section coming up now. What we're going to do is there's 4 enemies. The actual entire fight itself, I think, is around 9 enemies. But it's basically scripted so that the first 4 enemies, basically no enemies will spawn until you've killed the 4th person, which means you don't actually end up having to do the whole fight. You can just knock down the last guy and then proceed as normal. That fight's actually normally, like, if you're doing this game casually or if you're doing 100%, then you have to do that entire fight, but we can skip some of it. I'm gonna do an interesting glitch here.
The smell of food still wafted from the kitchen.
By vaulting into this room, the camera is in an unsuspected position, or the unexpected position. And as you can see, the cameraman gets slightly drunk.
At ease because they think themselves safe within the castle walls with no enemy to
Because the camera movement for that cutscene is basically tied to the prince's original position and camera position. So if you trick the game into basically doing something that, you know, the game doesn't expect, then the camera movement still plays out in the same way as it would, but just from the different starting position. So this is a section where you obviously want to go far away from Farah. Oh, Farah, no, 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 no. Okay, so Farah was very unkind to us there. Very, very unkind to us. So you can trick Farah's AI into basically stop her from being in danger. We were about to save a lot of time there as well. So, I mean, she can die during this section. Usually she doesn't die. I imagine she may well die this time as well. Okay, we're fine. Unfortunately, we're now a little bit behind my PB. It's not RNG, so... I mean, it's RNG whether she takes damage, that much damage or not. What I could have done to... right there. Gotta make sure I get this skip. There you go. What I could have done is I could have waited outside the door just a little tiny bit longer. And then that would have deloaded the enemies. Unfortunately, I jumped ahead a little bit too fast. And what that did was it meant that basically the last enemy to attack Farah did actually kill her. But because I had entered a cutscene, I can't rewind it to a time where Farah's not dead. So it was a little bit of the game's fault, a little bit my fault. What I should have done is I should have recognized the danger and I should have just played it a little bit more safe.
You're above the zoo.
I would have only had to wait like an extra second just to make sure she doesn't die.
Now what?
But it's okay.
Yes, I was just going to suggest that.
You did it!
This is another section where we really want Farah to follow us. There is a random chance whether or not she will follow us or not. What I usually do here, just to make sure she follows, is I chuck my camera into landscape view. There she is. Come on, Farah. Ah, come on, Farah. Got very unlucky there. She got caught on the enemies. That will lose us some time here. That, unfortunately, is RNG. Or random chance.
I'll just wait for you.
But it's not the end of the world. I mean, like I said, this isn't technically a PB attempt. Although, obviously, I can PB quite easily, because there's not,
Again.
my run is not that optimized just yet, because I've only just started coming back to running this game, or this category. It's not a true PB attempt. If we go over PB, it's completely fine. But, we mostly just want to get a run that is below 1 hour 40. Because 1 hour 40 will be the estimate that I submit for GDQ. Which is a pretty comfortable estimate, honestly. Unfortunately, over the last couple of weeks, I've not been able to play the game that much, so my skill with the game is not at the level that it should be. Warrior Within is a much quicker speedrun than this. Because of the open world aspect, the end of the game is loaded about 20 minutes in. You can just get to the end of the game really quickly. There is Warrior Within, no major glitches. I don't know the time on it though.
Hang on. I'm pulling mine.
So yeah, we'll lose some time on this section because of unfortunately Farah's AI decided to mess us around a little bit, but we shouldn't be too far behind. And we're actually coming up to what's one of my favourite sections of the game. Basically, if you can see on my splits, everything between bridge collapse and enter caves, that's one of my favourite sections of the game, because the movement that you can perform in that section is really fun. So let's hope I nail it.
I'll really be impressed. I knew that hole was there. I just wanted to see if you knew. Keep running!
NMG glitches is 154. That's quite long. That's really quite long. I'm not sure how optimized that is, but... So yeah, we lost a little bit of time there, unfortunately. But now we have cool movement. Everybody likes cool movement. So it happens quite fast, so I'll try and explain it. We want to hang off a very specific place here to perform a certain jump there. We're going to turn our camera around, roll in a specific way, land down here, and then drop down in a specific position. Again, turn our camera, roll again, get all the way down here, and then we're going to skip this cutscene by mashing... Or not, to be fair, we don't skip the cutscene, but we're able to move during the cutscene, which is quite nice, saves a little bit of time. And then, again, we've got another platforming skip by this jump here. But yeah, that section I actually managed to do really smoothly, which is really nice. Because it's pretty difficult. But that's not all. In the words of Billy Mays, we're going to skip another cutscene here by jumping over the cutscene trigger. We're going to travel to this side of the map to load in the next area. But it's actually quicker if we load in that trigger and then come over here, break this barrel, and then perform a vault to get up here.
This gate leads to the back.
Some careful platforming.
You think you could find your way there?
Of course, finding my way to the baths from here should be easy.
Good.
So if we didn't go over to those flagpoles and then rewind, the area that's past this door will not have loaded. So it's imperative that we do go to that side of the room. But obviously it's much quicker to do the it's much quicker to get through this section by
I'll meet you at the baths.
the route that we take.
She orders me
Oh, that's a
around
best
as if I
split.
were a servant.
Nice.
It's my own fault. There's women who need to show them you're in charge right from the start, or they'll walk all over you.
Sorry, I forgot what I was saying there.
Probably because I felt sorry for her. Well, it stops now. From now on,
I don't
she'll
need
have
to do this,
toe the
but I'm
line.
gonna just take a
That is,
quick drink
assuming you can find
just to make sure that my health is at an acceptable
it.
level.
Waiting here all this time? I didn't realize you meant these baths. I went to the other bath.
Oh, that's unfortunate. So, literally, the degree of error that I just had there was very small. But the reason why we jump in that very specific direction is to skip a cutscene, and that cutscene is actually very long, so you definitely want to skip it. Hey, Candelinio. Yes, this should be a no reset run. And if we can keep on this pace, it's going to be a PB. Because even though my splits might not say that I'm very far ahead, you know, it says I'm actually 16 seconds behind, my end of the game was extremely poor. So, like, even if I go into the very last split, like, even with my PB, I can still PB by 2 minutes. So, I lost a lot of time on my last split. Yeah, big fingers crossed. Hey, Funky Elephant. So there's a joke within the community that because this pot is directly in our path of movement, although it is technically slower to break that pot, if you don't break that pot, your run is invalid. Those are the rules. You know, I don't make the rules. Well, actually I do, I guess, because, you know, I'm part of the community, but... And because there's not much to talk about during this section, something I actually do want to shout out is the Prince of Persia community. The Prince of Persia Sands of Time community. Well, sorry, I say Sands of Time. Just the Prince of Persia community in general. It's really just a truly amazing group of people. And it's been an absolute wonderful experience to get to know everyone over the last 4 years. A really lovely group of guys. And basically the game is at the point that it is because of those people. There was basically no one running this game before 2013. Funnily enough, Mike Uyama, the you know, he's a pretty big name for GDQ. He actually ran this at 2011 and 2012. And there was some work being put into it. But basically after 2012, the game sort of died out. And the community stopped really looking for things. And then in late 2014, early 2015, the game sort of got a resurgence, which is really nice. My webcam is in black and white because my skin is very spotty right now, and I look awful. If it's in black and white, you can't tell. Or you can't tell as easy as anyway. This section right here is just some good platforming, if you're good. I managed to do that section fairly well. I don't think... no, I'm not going to be saving time because I messed up the cutscene skip. If I didn't mess up that cutscene skip, then I think that could have had a chance to have a best split. This section is very difficult. One of the hardest points of the run because there's a very, very precise skip, which if you don't get first try, doesn't save time. But you do want to do it. So, excuse me, Prince. I'm doing some specific platforming, and this is the specific thing. So I want to line up in a very specific way. I'm currently in a not a glitch state, but the game does not expect the Prince to be able to move freely on these ledges. Nice, we got it. So you can sort of see even now that when the Prince moves on these thin ledges, the game magnetizes you to these ledges. You don't get any sort of free movement, like right now. However, there's a very specific... it's almost pixel perfect, honestly. Position where we can jump and we can have free movement. And we can use that free movement to be able to skip a large section of platforming. It skips... I think if you do everything... If you do everything as you should first try, I think it saves about 15 seconds. So it's really, really worthwhile to do if you can do it properly. My PB actually got it very fast, so it'll be interesting to see if I save any time here. I'm also doing something here where... Oh, hello. Okay, well, I'm probably not going to save any time anymore. My direction apparently was not correct right there. And I swung in the wrong direction on the pole. Oh, we should still save a little bit of time. Nice. Good job, everyone. Ah, unfortunately, there's a random chance for the enemies to spawn in front of you. When they do, you just get very angry. There's not much else you can do, unfortunately. Big contribution on your end? Yeah, no, I couldn't do it without you guys. I mean, that's actually true because I wouldn't speedrun if I couldn't do it on stream, so... That's actually true. Like, don't get me wrong, I love speedrunning, but I don't think I would stay sane if I didn't have someone to talk to while speedrunning. I genuinely think I might go insane. Okay. I played that very risky for some reason, and I jumped at a very bad time. Because if I had not made that jump, or if I'd have been stopped mid-jump, the saw blade would have cut me in half. Again, we're getting very unlucky with these enemy spawns. Only in it for fame? Hell yeah. I am technically completely 100% whoa. My camera. What the heck? I'm 100% verifiably anti-fame. I had the chance. Not to sound like, you know, like a disheveled uncle from Napoleon Dynamite, but I could have been there, man. I could have done it. I had so much I had so many viewers after my 2015 run, and I could have kept them all, but I decided to instead not stream. I get really nervous. I have no idea why, because I have absolutely no issue whatsoever running at GDQ, which is in front of obviously 100,000 people. But whenever I've got like more than 150 people in my personal chat, I can't handle it. My brain goes into anxiety mode, and I don't know. I can't do it. I'm not sure why. I wish I did. I wish I knew why. But there we are. So this is a section which is some forced fighting. We're going to try and make it go as quick as we can. But what's quite cool is that even after at the end of this fight, we're going to do a really cool trick, which is it's not very apparent what the trick is, but you're going to have to trust me that it's there. I feel like that's the sentence that I have said the most during this run. I'm like, trust me guys, this does exist. But we're moving that statue, we're moving that in preparation for the trick. We're getting very lucky this run because none of these enemies... Literally, as I say that, one of the enemies teleports to Farah. I was about to say, we're getting very lucky because none of the enemies are teleporting to Farah. I think I can make the enemies spawn here by wall running? No. Apparently not. Okay, so this is the last wave of enemies. We're getting very unlucky with these enemy spawns. But essentially, the basis of the trick is that we want to kill the last enemy on this side of the room. Right here. This should be fine. Yeah, so because you can hear the prince's voice line where he says, well, what are you waiting for? That means we've got it. Done. So we're going to do another save and quit here. Because, so when I load back in the game, it's going to be very obvious as well. A cutscene that should have taken, you know, a long time to play will already have played. So that door opens up immediately the moment that we spawn back in. Actually, I misspoke. That's not actually a cutscene, but it's like, it's a conversation in-game between the prince and Farah. You get to skip that entire conversation. Saves about 20 seconds, I think. Because not only do you have the conversation, you've then got to wait for Farah to move into the correct position. And now we have the Hall of Learning. This is one of my favorite points in the game. And fun fact, the save point for this part in the game officially classes you as 69% of the way through the game. Just a fun fact. So, again, like I did a little bit earlier, we're not going to kill all of the enemies for this section. We're going to kill 5 of them, and we want to keep one alive. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. So, we want to move mirrors here. Wait a second, are there 2 guys alive? There's 2 guys alive. Well, this is a disaster. Not really, but... So we want to move these mirrors as unhindered as possible. And that helps when we've only got one enemy to deal with. Unfortunately, he's going to get up by the time that we get this one in position. But we're going to knock him down. And voila! We have completed the puzzle. Or at least the first part of the puzzle. This like, the section that plays now after the first fight section is just one of my favorite points in the run. I really like the environment of this room. I think it's really well designed. And it's very fun to traverse through. So we're actually going to do a wall run which... well, no we're not. We're going to do a wall run which the game shouldn't let us do. If we can get it. Unfortunately, the enemy is pushing me out the way. I would appreciate it if you did not do this, enemy. Please move. Well, that's the opposite of what I wanted, but whatever. Okay. So that was a lot of time wasted. There we go. So we finally got the jump. You shouldn't be able to make this jump. And by the pure virtue of making this jump, we've skipped a lot of the places that we should have been able to. What this does is it actually inadvertently makes the puzzle a lot easier. Because we're going to have access to... Oh, so I'm dead. We kill ourselves to stop the enemy from spawning, by the way. It's on purpose, I promise. Hello? Can I not grab this ledge, please? Okay. Yeah, so now the enemy is not, like, following us around and trying to be nasty to us and stuff. We kill ourselves on purpose just to stop him. I'm getting extremely lucky with the enemies in this run. But never mind. It's a shame. This is one of my favourite sections, but I've kind of messed it up a lot. But that's okay, and that's alright. So we're going to have to kill those bats that were being mean to us eventually.
Listen to this. Of what use is reason against the power of love?
Did I get all of them? So unfortunately, to make these bats go away, you need to have 3 left. I managed to kill all of them, but 4, so I had just 1 extra that I needed to kill.
If you want to be useful, try finding a book that'll tell us how to get out of here.
So, because we've got the light pointing in this direction before we should have been able to,
she thinks this is a game.
we're able to skip this section of the puzzle here. And using a very specific setup to get down here to this ledge. It looks like I'm literally just about to jump to my doom, but there is a rope down here.
Be careful.
By using that rope, we're able to get to this section, and we're basically at the end of the puzzle. Yeah, this we normally use, or if you're doing it casually, I should say, I think you usually use about 4 or 5 more mirrors than what we've used in this run. Yeah, we're gonna lose some time in this split because my my movement was pretty appalling. Oh wait, no, it's a GDQ submission video. My movement was insane. I'm the best. So we are in a race against time during this section. We need to get to the floor before Farah basically dies. It is random whether or not she takes, you know, like, damage. And she's not actually taken that much. So we're just going to go ahead and collect the sword. Yeah, we lost 20 seconds. Honestly, that's fine. So hopefully Farah doesn't let me down here. What she should be able to do is she should be able to kill the enemy. Or at least knock the enemy down. Before she starts to die. She's doing her best. Look at her. Look at her go. Don't die, Farah. Hey, Farah didn't die. Rejoice. So something that I've been doing throughout the run, you may have noticed that some enemies, I don't retrieve their sand. Some enemies that I just kill outright without retrieving their sand. That's for a very specific reason right here. Because those little half moons that are next to my sand tank, whenever you fill up a half moon, it refills all of your sands. And that's going to allow us to do a technique that's called mega freezing as soon as I retrieve one enemy's sand here. After this cutscene, obviously. So yeah, you can see on the left, all of my sand tanks are now fully filled. And we can do this move, which is called Mega Freeze. We didn't get all of the enemies. You can actually kill all the enemies if they spawn in fast enough, basically. Alas. Ow. I think we killed all of the enemies but 3, and that's fine. So as you may have noticed, we kind of left Farah behind in the last room, and the door closed on her. So we're a little bit far away from her. We need to get her in this room. The way that we do that is by loading this save right here.
I'll start the story from here next time.
And then we're going to kill ourselves to reload the room. So whenever you take a save, that always gives you a checkpoint to go back to. Now we're here, and now Farah's with us.
Not yet! Wait till I'm on the platform!
We're going to use some fancy platforming to get over to this section sooner than we should be able to. And we're going to play this bit in reverse. So the prince's voice lines will be played in reverse.
Here I come!
Wait! Don't you need to open the gate?
I do need to open the gate. However, as you can see, by opening the gate, we are currently going to be falling into the abyss.
The gate's open.
We can load that abyss by falling down here. So the load trigger for that checkpoint is next to those flagpoles. So by jumping off the edge there, you hit the trigger by going next to the flagpoles. And then you rewind back up to the top.
Come on. Look, a crack.
Wait, let's see where this corridor goes. Alright, you can take the crack.
See you soon.
Ah, I'm interested that I didn't save any time there. I thought that was a pretty fast section.
I'm up here.
But basically, if you manage to kill all of the enemies with your Mega Freeze, it saves so much time, it's unreal. Got some quite cool platforming here.
I can jump it.
Go on, try.
I'm going to try to do a trick which is called frame perfect lever. As the name may imply, it's a frame perfect trick to essentially pull this lever here, but you want to stop pulling it. Ah, dang it. I didn't get it. So you want to stop pulling it before this cutscene plays. There is a pixel perfect position where the door at the end of the route, this corridor opens, but the cutscene does not play. It's extremely specific. Which is always hard to do at a game that runs at 60 FPS.
I can't open the gate.
So, there is a skip for this section called Palm Tree Skip, or Big Palm Tree Skip. I'm not going to be doing that because it's too unreliable for... Oh, I'm getting very unlucky here with my wall runs. Yeah, I'm going to jump up here to make these enemies go away. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I got a little bit unlucky there as well. There's basically a random chance whether the enemies, you know, get in front of the bit that you want to go into. But you can only get up to that top balcony bit from a very specific point of the wall run. But we're doing some very specific movement right here to, you know, we shouldn't be able to wall run on these walls that we are wall running on. You see that big palm tree on my left? You can just jump between this wall and the palm tree, and it saves about 15 seconds. But it's too unreliable for doing a marathon run, I think. But we're not done yet. We also need to get down, and there is a very hard way to get down, but it is very fast, so I'll try to do it. You need to wall run onto this fence in a very specific position, like so. And then you want to drop down. I don't think that's got it, unfortunately. No. We'll give it one more try. That should be fine. Yep. So you want to basically stop your wall run at a very specific point and then jump off at a very specific point. It's quite difficult to get the timing down, but not too bad to get it second try. I would really appreciate some health right now. Don't know about you guys.
Look, that's the bridge to the Tower of Dawn. Wait for me.
Okay. So we're going to be a little bit behind here going into prison, but that's okay. You know, ideally I'd like to be not a minute behind. But as long as the rest of the game goes smoothly, we should still be very, very comfortably underestimate. That being said, there's a very hard trick at the bottom of this room. So we'll see how it goes.
A prison. In my father's palace was a prison much like this.
Basically,
I had never set foot inside. Now here I
there's a
was,
trick at the bottom of this room
myself a prisoner, seeking an escape.
where we want to abuse a trigger and teleport off of it instantly using the Mega Freeze technique that we showed earlier. And by doing so, it allows a door that should be shut to remain open. And then that allows us to skip a section, which is really nice. Alas, we do need to get it first try to save time, because my PB did get it first try. It'll be a little bit easier to explain the trick after you've seen it performed. So here we go. What I'm going to do first of all is, because I need to do Mega Freeze, I need to take this sand cloud to refill all of my sands. I'm going to come over here. Oh my god, really? That's That's very unfortunate. Apparently I wasn't blocking. Oh, this is bad. I need these enemies to come over here a little bit. No way, dude. Ugh. That's really unfortunate. I don't even know how to... I'm not even sure if this is going to work. Frick my face off, dude. That's not good. Okay, so I'm going to kill myself here to basically give me another chance. That's very bad. Let's give this another try. There we go. So, it is... Normally, it's dependent on the enemy positioning whether you get it or not. Somehow, I managed to use my sand tank without using a Mega Freeze, which is very, very interesting. It's not actually happened to me before.
Devices at close range, close enough to touch. Where were the men whose trade it had been to apply the...
I'm going to try a new strat here, actually.
Extract the answer their king sought. If indeed there was one. In the end, they had met the same fate as their victims. Gods and...
Excuse me? Okay. What is going on here? Oh my god, really? Oh, this is a comedy of errors right now.
Wait.
Okay, so it's actually going to be pretty difficult to it's going to be pretty difficult to actually do under 140 now. But a little bit unlucky with the bats there. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know what's happening. Oh my days. Well, that's definitely not good. What are these bats? I have never seen the bats be that aggressive, and it unfortunately has lost us a lot of time, but that's okay. I'm not having a good old time here. So it'll be interesting, honestly, to see if I can get sub 140, because if I can, then obviously it is a very comfortable estimate. My health for this section is going to be really low as well, which is very bad. For some reason, these enemies are not aggroing, and I don't know why. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's actually amazing for me. But I'm suspicious. Farah! What you doing, girl? She tried again! You see that? She actually tried to get me again. Okay. Well, that wasn't good, but... Man. My health is quite low.
Be careful.
Of what? Not everything is a trap, you know.
I don't know why my end game has just been very, very poor recently. Still, we've got, this is another fight section, but we've got Mega Freeze for this fight, so hopefully it should go fairly smoothly. I mean, amazing? I suppose I do. I suppose I do. Yeah, you can usually do this fight very easily in 2 Mega Freezes. Yeah, this is one of the best songs on the soundtrack, for sure. It's called Tower of Dawn, if you're interested. So Farah's starting to die, which is bad for us, but one more enemy should be fine. I can't get that last guy because Farah's in the way, unfortunately. So you can only Mega Freeze to someone when you've got their line of sight. Okay. Okay, guys. Guys, can you see this? Can you see this right here? Best possible time, 1:39:31. Sub 40 is still possible. It's going to be very, very, very close. Oh my god. A major glitch. Hey, Peppermint Bubble. Clutch time. Yeah, no kidding. This doesn't help. The major window glitch. It's back. With a vengeance. Whew. Okay, friends. Let's get a gold split here.
I can feel it.
Feel it how?
I can't explain it.
Okay, I'm hyped now. I'm hyped. This run is terrible, don't get me wrong. But if it can get sub 140, that would be very, very good for me.
Look out!
Okay. We actually have a 2-minute cutscene here. So we can't do much. It's quite dark, isn't it? Let me go turn on the light.
You were there. The dagger was in your hand. Why did you hesitate? You think you're cleverer than everybody.
Let there be light.
Just like the rest of them. Those soldiers.
Yeah, I mean this is, you know,
Destroy
Trust me, if there's one thing you shouldn't say in your submissions, it's this is a good time for donations. Because, you know,
Why didn't you trust me?
that implies that there's a section where not a lot is going on. But this is that section.
Sorry,
Where are you?
I'm right here.
Hold my hand. Don't let go. I didn't mean what I said.
No, you're right. All that's happened is my doing. I
Yeah.
wanted honor and glory.
Unfortunately, during this section,
I brought this on us.
the developers got
You
slightly
are
lazy.
brave and good. If this tomb is to be ours, at least
Thanks to the
dagger will
donator
be
and
ours.
those watching behind the scenes. Glad to view such a worthy cause. Put this animal towards the donator's choice. Wait, towards donator's choice?
You're
That
trying-
means you.
I just don't like close spaces. There must be some way out here.
When I was small, my mother
Guys,
told
I need
me
a
a
shave.
secret word.
You not think?
She said that when I was afraid,
I think
all
so.
I had to do was speak that word, and a magic door would open.
Yeah, even though this run, the last quarter of this run have been a little bit poor.
Kakolukiam.
It's not too bad.
Lukia,
Not too bad at all.
you did that, didn't you?
You know, in an ideal world, I would like to submit a video that is, you know, around 135. But this is not an ideal world. So after that long section of looking at nothingness, you now get to have a long section of looking at the same thing. Because for some reason, they decided to include this very long staircase. Not entirely sure on the design reason behind this staircase, but... Actually, thinking about it, when did Metal Gear Solid 3 come out? Was that also 2003? Is 2003 just the
Where are you?
year for long stretches of nothingness?
Isn't it beautiful?
Isn't
Ah,
it-
2004.
Where are you?
Man. I rolled the wrong way. Whoops.
If only we could stay here.
Farah?
Yeah, what the heck, Kojima?
If only we could stay here.
Farah! Where are you?
Take me in your arms.
I don't see you. All right, this is getting ridiculous.
So, a lot of people thought that this, when they were younger, they thought this was random. But there is a sound cue that plays whenever you're over the right door. It is a set pattern.
Why do you act so distant?
It's always really funny when someone comes to chat and they've not seen the game played before and they're like... Oh, sorry. They've not seen it since they played it as a kid and they're like, oh, I didn't realize it was a set path.
Was it really
Okay,
a
guys.
magical
We've
dagger?
got a very interesting section coming up right
Was it a
now.
dream we both
It's a trick which I have had a lot of issues with recently. So let's hope that it goes okay. And let's hope I don't tilt off the face of the earth like I did when I couldn't get it yesterday.
No.
Let's go. It's time. Prince, don't roll that way, please. Okay. You guys ready? Okay, so it involves Very specific positioning. Dang it. I didn't get it first try, but that's fine. Although that probably is 140 gone, unfortunately. That's a shame. Almost.
No.
No, Prince, no. There we go. Second try. No, well, third try. It was slow. But it should still be around 140-ish. I feel like I'm just psyching myself out, though, now with that trick. You know? Because I am not telling a lie. I had no issues with that trick for ages. And now I just feel like I'm going to fail it every time. Sad state of affairs. I'm getting a little bit unlucky here. Comboed to heck. Yeah, unfortunately, I think 140 is dead. But we will try our best. This section, obviously, being the end of the game, it's pretty hard because you can't mess up. So during a cutscene that we skipped, Farah steals your Dagger of Time, which means you have no rewind powers anymore. There she is. She's actually got our sword as well as our dagger. That's why we had to pick up that new sword. Gonna do some fancy platforming right here. Hey Krazoon, what's up? Fancy platforming has been completed. There's a small little skip here to get up to this section. Farah's revenge for twisting her neck. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. It's interesting because it's actually unclear in the game why she does it. Like, it leaves it open for discussion whether she actually liked the prince or whether she was just using him. Or maybe didn't trust him. Actually liking the prince. Hey, filthy luck. I mean, I actually like the prince in this game. I don't like the prince in the other games. But in this game, I think the prince is quite charming. That's unfortunate. Okay. So I messed up the platforming, but I killed all the bats, so it's fine. No, I actually couldn't stand the Dark Prince, actually. Oh, I actually went a little bit too far there. You don't have to climb all the way over this far. Hello? Apparently I was holding a direction then. Sub 140 is gone, my friends. Sub 140 is gone. That's fine. Like I said, I have not put, you know, I've only very recently come back to this game, so I've not put enough time into it to be able to be consistently able to get a 140. But by the time, obviously, GDQ rolls around, that will not be true. You don't want to miss something? Well, there's only two things that happen in the game now. There's the final... There's the final fight here, and then the final boss battle.
Farah, no!
Yeah, I mean, I've proven, like, when I submitted for SGDQ 17, that was another situation where my submission video was very close to my PB. Sorry, my submission estimate was very close to my PB, but I was confident in the time that that Sands of Time... sorry, I was confident that by the time GDQ rolled around, that I would have PB'd, and I did. You know, because that's how it goes. Oh yeah, rip Farah, by the way. That's unfortunate. It's a pretty poor fight so far. I've gotten a lot of blocks and a lot of misses on my auto-aim. There's a random chance whether these enemies block. God damn it. Come on, Prince. Double kill. Double kill. Ah! Oh, baby, the slick moves. Oh, the not so slick moves. One more enemy. We good. This is the final instance of using the save and quit mechanic.
Done.
So yeah, unfortunately this will end up being a 141.30-ish.
For your own safety, I suggest
But that's okay. This is the final boss. Unfortunately the final boss is very underwhelming.
I will handle this intruder.
Good first phase. Really nice first phase. Really nice first phase.
Exertions are most amusing.
It's interesting because in the technically his name is Jafar, so
Let him be brought before my father. He will judge.
like it's not explicitly stated that his name is Jafar in this game,
Do you disobey?
but he is called Jafar in the other games, like in the original games. And this is meant to be a reimagining,
Your
you know.
father was a great warrior in his youth. Did you really think you could defeat me?
Although, did the original... Someone find out.
Careful.
Did the original
tire
Prince of
yourself.
Persia come out before Aladdin? You know, it might have done. Maybe.
And so it ends. How will the Maharaja feel when he finds his only daughter?
What's Prince of Persia 1?
slain by the
89?
son of his
Yeah,
enemy?
thought so.
Do you have any last words you wish me to communicate?
Sub 141?
Princess,
No.
before I kill her.
Unfortunately not.